going on there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's a conversation you could be having during the day, but having at night. We're back with this week with another live stream for you guys, talking about the kind of the happenings of the day, as well as a little distraction in the form of the movie review. And just to remind you that this month is Leftovers month. And we'll be tackling movies that that didn't quite make the cut the first time around. So we'll be doing it this time, and this time we'll be revisiting Machismo Month, and we'll be reviewing Rocky IV.
One of the greats.
One of the greats. And as with me, as ever, co-piloting this thing with me is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, not like a whole lot of news current event topic things, but I think even though it may seem that they're completely opposite things from each other, I think me and Rob kind of in our weird telepathic brain picked kind of interesting but kind of similar topics to talk about. I think it has more to do with because my topic definitely has more to do about culture and society, and Rob wants to touch on kind of continue the conversation that we had last week, talking about term limits for politicians, and kind of getting back to the what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? The more realized picture of what the founding fathers had in mind, vis-a-vis the Federalist Papers.
Yeah, it's so I'm kind of looking forward to talking about that, because after last week's conversation, my brain was kind of turning around, what else would I like to. I know it's stuff that'll never happen, but
right.
Stuff that we could change to make things better.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of cogitating on that all week, and thought we could dive into that a little bit, and I get your thoughts. But yeah, no, and then obviously you're bringing up an issue too that I'm I've been hearing I've been hearing kind of rumblings about what's been going on with the whole Victoria's Secret model stuff, and I'm just I'm not surprised, but it's just good God.
Yeah. I mean, again, I know they're not exactly the same, but I think both of our topics are important things to discuss, because, one, kind of Victoria's Secret is a cultural institution, but also it's kind of being chipped away at, in the name of, some misguided progressive notions. And similarly to kind of with the Constitution, and kind of the idea of jurisdictional powers, because everyone pays attention to the federal election, but no one pays attention to their local dog catcher elections, and arguably the dog catcher election is more important than the presidential election.
I think people are starting to wake up to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, especially when you have your DeSantis's and your Abbotts and your Gnomes. You're starting to find out that local is way more important than federal. And I think that's why. And I think that's why, because there isn't a ton of Asian representation in federal government, but there's a shit ton in local. I think it's because Asian Americans, they realize that Asians are very results oriented people, and so they realize that they can get more stuff done locally than they ever could do federally. And I think that's why you see I think you see more of or an overrepresentation of Asians in local governments.
Right. But yeah, the other thing about like this past week is obviously we're getting nothing's ever going to come of it, which is really unfortunate because a lot of people need to pay a heavy price for all of this. But I feel like the tinfoil hat people that have
Hmm.
with a lot of the quote unquote crazy conspiracy theories. Well, yeah, the whole coronavirus thing, that's a conspiracy theory. Not that it didn't exist, but all the people that were involved in the cover up, involved in everything that's going on. I for one feel like a crazy person because had this been had we been our age now 20 years ago and we were talking about as the evidence is progressing and we were talking about that, people would have just you know put us in some public access channel that nobody listens to.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's where kind of the powers that be really lost their control or being able to control the narrative is because things like the internet. Because yeah, I mean, you have some nut job railing on and about what is it, fluoride in toothpaste, or the government having some sort of weather controlling device. They can rail all they want on public access television, and no one's gonna watch that. Um,
No.
I mean, I don't. Let's not. Well, let me not be inaccurate. Not the mainstream is not going to be watching that, or the vast majority of people aren't going to be watching that. But now, you have the internet, and you have the lowered bar entry, and anyone with a $30 webcam can fire it up, record like a 10-minute video, and outlining all of the points, and people are gonna watch that. People are gonna listen, because what the internet did was offer authenticity, as opposed to like the very controlled, very packaged, very sterilized corporate media structure.
Yeah, well, because I mean, you have the scary part though is and I think that's great that we actually find that we have a way to get around legacy media, and it's just which is just continue to dive further into the abyss of
Hmm. Yeah.
it's garbage,
Right.
and
I like
we've
I like
seen a
to
lot
I
of
like to I like the saying, relegate to the dustbin of history.
yeah. We have a lot of the what's so quote unquote so-called new media, which is actually doing a much better job because there's actual journalism and
Hmm.
investigations going on, and use of resources, reference materials, all what normal journalists are supposed to do.
Hmm.
And the crazy part is that a lot of more of the public forums where we should be able to share those stories, like your Twitter, your Facebook, YouTube, what have you. Like those are being attacked by people that are in cahoots with the legacy media and a lot of nefarious people within our government.
Hmm.
um, case in point, you have a lot of the emails that Fauci had, because a lot of those, how those became public, I don't know, but thank God they
I
did.
well, it interestingly enough, talk about new media. It was actually BuzzFeed that put in that got the FOIA paperwork in, and were the one there. I think they were the ones that broke the news. Um,
BuzzFeed of
yeah,
all the
surprising, and I think it was a complete. I think it was an accident, because I'm sure they're trying to do some kind of fluff piece, but then they found like all this other stuff. But yeah, BuzzFeed was the one that put in the FOIA request for Fauci's emails.
Oh Lord. Okay. Well, anyways, well, by being dumb, or maybe they actually got tired of Dr. Fauci and it's like, well, fuck this guy, we're gonna we're gonna expose him, which
Maybe.
I highly doubt from BuzzFeed. But anyways, I'm glad that they're out
Mm-hmm.
because it shows not only that the NIH and Fauci were involved in funding a lot of these virology clinics, not only in Wuhan but around the world.
Mm-hmm.
You have in the cover up, you have Fauci coordinating with like Mark Zuckerberg, and I don't know if it was Dorsey too, but like obviously, like if you're coordinating with one, you're coordinating with all of them.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised.
And that, like, pretty much like we'll tell you the narrative that we're trying to lock down. Essentially it's them sharing, like, they're working on a narrative and if anyone dissents from that narrative, shut it down.
Mm-hmm.
And you have people thanking and congratulating Fauci on his not talking about the virology clinic and kind of steering away from that. And
right, I forget who he is, but like Eco Health or something, and
like that. Yeah, I forget his name. I forget.
Yeah,
his
but
title,
he personally thanked Fauci for putting it, like, discrediting the theory of it being a leak or an accidental release from the Wuhan damn it, this word virology. How, I don't know, why can't I pronounce this? I can say every other word, but virology. Virology is the one that trips me up.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we have that going on, and it's just, and the evidence just seems to be more and more damning.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing that pisses me off is nothing's gonna happen to this guy. He's gonna stay in power. He's gonna keep making his money.
Yeah, he's gonna be a barnacle on the boat that is the American government. But although, if you notice, he hasn't been on TV as much.
Oh, because I think they did that on purpose.
Yeah, no, exactly. They're trying to mitigate. They're trying to mitigate the damage by not having him. I mean, yeah, he'll do like the odd interview for, like, whatever network, corporate network, whatever. But for the most part, like, yeah, he's like, you don't really see him. And I mean, I don't know, because I also kind of keep away from legacy media sources, or at least broadcast. So yeah, maybe that's just my me not engaging, so like I just don't see him as often. But
True.
But every once in a while
he was on, like, God, it seemed like there were so many, like, YouTube channels like, oh, we're bringing on our guest Dr. Fauci, and it's like, oh God. And it was like you had this whole bar of suggested videos concerning, like, coronavirus.
Yeah.
It all, like, I mean, there was like 20 channels that had Fauci on, including,
right,
like,
and it was all, and they were, and it was, and that's just how it's inorganic or completely contrived, because it's people like you've never heard of, or they're pre-approved by the legacy media, like they're it's like, it's because a lot of the legacy media have now kind of are trying to bust into the podcast game. I know Fox News is getting, like, one, like Brian Kilmeade, he has a podcast, kind of through Fox, and I think Chris Cuomo and Don Lemon are going to do a podcast. And I'm sure MSNBC, like, they have, like, their stable of people doing podcasts now too. But it's like, if we don't want to hear you, like, on cable, like, what makes you think we want to hear what you have to say on iTunes or Spotify? But I mean, going back to what you said about YouTube, like, yeah, but it's like all of those people that Fauci, like, had the interviews with, they're people that either no one's ever heard of, or they're pre-approved by YouTube or the legacy media. So it's like,
Yeah.
so you're not gonna get like a really good interview. Well, I think the only good one, I forget, it was like some like Mexican like singer, but like Ed like Edwin something or other. But he really was asked he asked some hard questions, and so I appreciate that. Like he was at he like I think it has something to do with the masks. But
Yeah.
he was like, yeah, because it was at the time when Fauci said like, oh yeah, if one mask is good, two masks just makes more sense, and
It makes
then
perfect sense.
yeah, exactly. Like, if it's or it's like common sense. Like if it was common sense, why didn't you advise us to wear two masks, at the outset,
Yeah,
But
exactly.
yeah, so like that's the only example I can point to where, someone like asked like a genuine question, and he wouldn't let Fauci just kind of skate, because of course Fauci tried to skate on answering it, but no, but
Of
he
course.
actually held him. He actually held him to task. I'll try to find it, and I'll maybe link it in the description after this is
It's like,
archived.
thank God somebody's at least, it's other than Rand Paul. Like it seems like at least somebody else is trying to hold his feet to the fire a little bit.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, yeah, Rand Paul's an optometrist or whatever, but he at least knows, how to science, and
Yeah.
um, not like I'm not claiming that I know how to science, but I know how to read, and I could and I know how to look at data and see how this number is smaller than this number, or this number is bigger than that number, and so and make differential assessments.
Well, yeah, and then the other crazy thing is that, and I think this is one of the other like big reasons as to why there was such a huge cover up is that there are a lot of other virology clinics around the world that are, if they're not already built, they're being built, and
Hmm.
it's this is
Yeah,
what they're going to be
they
doing.
were trying to
Like
go for a
they're going
change.
to be doing that. They're going to be doing that gain of function research, and if that was going to be the cause of this thing,
Hmm.
then there's gonna be like, oh wait, hold on a second. No, we're not gonna be having another one of these out in the world. Like we're gonna shut all this shit down.
I
This
know,
will be
yeah.
an outbreak.
They're trying to go for a franchise. They're trying to be like the McDonald's of virology.
I think there's gonna be like some like 30 or 40 that are, if not already built, or being planned to be constructed soon.
Hmm.
Which is, and it's all these like little like ghouls and weasels that are kind of running this stuff. It's like, what the hell is this? And it's like, oh, we're just, we're trying to figure it out, like if we can, toy around with things and figure. It's like, well, how about like just not toying around with them, and then we figure out like, and then everything's fine.
Right. Oh God, what was I gonna say? Um, Something to do with
And a lot of these
viruses.
places are also like they have they're protected by the military, so they're militarily run.
Uh
So
huh.
that means that they're government run. You
Right.
have the lady that was running the Wuhan one, who is obviously working for the Chicoms.
Uh huh.
She all the work that they'd been doing was at one time
Oh.
public knowledge, but
Hmm.
after this happened, she all that stuff was deleted. So a lot of the evidence that is, I can't say whether it was something that was leaked on purpose, or there was an accident that happened and it leaked. But the fact that it doesn't matter at this point, like it's being covered up, and so any sort of investigation now, like, well, the Biden's team has shut that down. So I mean, we have, the trail is cold, but I mean, we have a lot of evidence, but nothing's gonna happen, and nothing's gonna come of it, and it's just gonna
Right.
be
There's
just
still a lot of residual
overshooting.
stuff. that that we can look into, and I think that can possibly lead to something. But yeah, what is it? I was always suspicious when they when the term gain of function came out, because at this point I'm conditioned to always be suspicious of the explanations that the government or the media you know uh, puts out, and and I was right. And the what is it? Gain of function is just a euphemism for weaponization.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
When you actually like listen to the definition, it's like, oh, weaponization. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's to gain of function is to manipulate and something or other.
I use that initially just because that's the term everyone's been hearing, but when you
Uh-huh.
actually look at it, yeah, they're
It's
weaponizing viruses.
weaponization.
They're making viruses that are more that are not they're naturally occurring, but they're like they've super enhanced them to make them
Right,
more deadly.
or they turn them into chimeras, and they take this from from this virus and that from that virus, and they put them together like Frankenstein's monster. Um,
Yeah, I mean
to
that's exactly they're Dr. Frankenstein. That's exactly what they are.
Yeah. But kind of getting back to originally to since all of this information has been coming out, just a point that I'd like to make. Everyone that believed that this was naturally occurring, there's conspiracy theorists too. They're just conspiracy theorists, following what is it, the government narrative. When the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing happened, people who believe that he was murdered, that they were labeled conspiracy theorists. But actually, the people that went along with the narrative, they're also conspiracy theorists, because they have to believe that that by chance, by pure happenstance, the cameras went out, the both of the guards fell asleep, and and Jeffrey Epstein was able to kill himself with basically toilet paper.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a conspiracy. That's a conspiracy theory too. It's just a conspiracy theory on the other side.
Yeah, it's just well, and the reason I bring up about like what we're talking about with like the whole Wuhan lab and Dr. Fauci and all these things is I think it also kind of speaks a little bit to like the point I'm going to be making about things that we can do to fix our government in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. Now,
All
personally,
right.
me, I'd love to see all of these, you know, 3 or 4 letter acronym government
Agencies.
bureaucratic agencies just to cease to exist because
Hmm.
I think they're all useless.
Okay.
Like
All right. Well
the
then, yeah. Let's get into it then. Since we got we gave this. I think that was a pretty good teaser or opener
yeah.
for tonight's stream. So yeah, let's get into your topic.
I mean, I'd love to just like wipe off like the face of the earth a lot of these bureaucratic agencies, like the NIH, the CDC,
Hmm.
the FDA, all of them. I mean, they're all really terrible.
Hmm.
But barring that happening, I would say that the people that are now, I wouldn't say like in the case of like the presidential cabinet, like, obviously, like those are we entrust our president to fill those positions. Obviously, like you want
Right.
him
Yeah.
working with
Yeah. And
people that
we trust the president will fill it with competent people, and yada yada yada.
right. That's what I'm saying. Is like so I'm not suggesting that like those positions, like your Secretary of State or whatever, should be an elected position.
Hmm.
That's fine. But but a lot of these um, bureaucratic organizations, those are in a lot of ways, quote unquote cabinet positions. But I think that those organizations, because since they don't they outlast any presidential run. Like, I mean, God, Fauci's on his 5th president now. Gonna be
Yeah.
6 when Kamala finally, when Joe Biden finally croaks. But
Yeah.
it's,
Croaks.
yeah. But the fact that this guy is, if we're gonna keep those organizations around, all of them should be elected positions, at least the head of
Right. So
the
like the director of the FBI, the director of the National
yeah.
Security Agency, the director of the FDA. Right, because I mean,
Well,
it
think
all
about
makes
it.
it does make sense because they work for the public good, and
Right.
so
Well, and think about it. We actually do have we do the like local sheriffs, like the sheriff of a town, or like
mhm,
the police chief. Those are elected positions.
mhm,
Those guys are not. I mean, they're politicians that we vote for in a lot of
mhm.
cases. So why isn't the FBI director voted for? Why isn't the CIA or NSA? Why aren't these people, the heads of those being voted in or voted out? Um, especially with the fact that, like, the idea that stuff like the Patriot Act has just been allowed to exist for, that was
Right.
supposed
It's
to be
just
a
been rubber.
temporary
It's
thing.
been rubber
Yeah,
stamped since the early 2000s.
it's been 20 years,
Hmm.
and yep, oh yeah, just yeah, whatever, we'll keep it going. It's like,
Right. Yeah. And
no,
then so
we're
yeah.
gonna
So like yeah. So anything could be yeah. And with that in place, like anything can be what is it? Put under the auspices of national security. Um, driving your car could potentially be placed under the auspices of national security. And the government can take away your license or impound your car. Uh,
right, and because
and
they're
invoke and then, yeah,
with
and just
all
by
that, and let's not
invoking
forget it.
the Patriot Act.
Yeah, and like a lot of these a lot of these organizations, they create laws and they have no accountability to the public at all.
Hmm.
And so someone's livelihood, like the certain, like, like the health department and stuff like that. And I'm not saying that there isn't a use for them, because
Hmm.
I mean, to be honest though, I don't really think that there's a lot of restaurants that like purposely go out of their way to be unhealthy. I mean, it's like, yeah, we're
Hmm.
gonna kill everybody
Right.
because
Yeah.
that's,
And I think the whole grading system is, just this big sham because any restaurant could, keep it up to code for, the time that they know that the health inspector is going to come and inspect. But, after that, they can maybe, be a little bit lax with it.
yeah. And I'm not
But I
saying that
mean,
there should be standards.
but even if they have, like, if there has not been like a death associated from it, I think you're good.
Yeah, but the fact that I'm not saying that there shouldn't be standards, but we need to like, but these organizations, they run without any sort of um, accountability. They make up their own rules, and we're just beholden to them. And everyone just like, yeah, that's fine. Like, no one care. No one thinks about that. And why? And why have we given these organizations these power this power? I didn't vote for any of these people. I didn't. And the
Right. I
fact
think
that, like, they were able to run our life without any checks and balances on their power, that's goes completely against what this country is founded on.
right. I think more and more I'm finding out that I know there are some people who aren't religious or spiritual, but I think it comes down to a sin matter. No one wants the responsibility no one wants the responsibility for their own life. And that's why we've
Yeah,
offloaded. That's why we offloaded, our protection to the police or putting out fires to the fire department or a whole host of other things. Even our food production, I mean, what is it? Up until up until the Industrial Revolution, the country was like 80% agricultural or
Yeah.
agrarian,
Yeah.
you know. But now it's like I think it's down to about either in the
It's like
teens or
15%.
either in the teens or like low 20% of this country is agrarian or grow their own food essentially. And I think it kind of comes down to a sin issue, and or if you don't want to refer to it as a sin issue, then just an unwillingness to take responsibility for one's own life. And I'm not just talking about protection, but I'm also talking about feeding yourself, clothing yourself, sheltering yourself. That's why everyone lives in you know, those honeycombs for humans called apartments. No one owns a property. They all live on another man's land.
Oh, dude, that's a whole that's a different time. But there are these corporations that are buying up like large swaths of property. I mean, like hand over fist, and
Uh
they're outbidding you know regular you know regular everyday people that are trying to buy homes or whatever. And then they're not just like buying them to like flip them and maybe make a profit. No, they're buying them to to rent them out. So it's like essentially that no one all these corporations like own property, and then they're just renting it out, and then so
Right.
no one
Yeah. I
actually
mean,
owns anything.
yeah, and which then inflates the property or the cost of property. So like so people like guys in our generation will, I don't want to say never, but it'll be much harder for us to own our own homes.
Yeah.
Like I know we're already in our 30s, and I don't know. I want to. We might be in our 50s before we own our own houses.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, I mean, just even in my area, what is it? There was this property that I kind of drive by every once in a while, and for the longest time it was just a single family dwelling, but it was a lot of property. And then within the last like 2 or 3 years, someone bought it and they developed it. They're putting in like again another honeycomb. But it's crazy. Like it's like the with that amount of land, a family could live, and they could maybe grow like a few essential like vegetables, or and they could they and so like they so in a case of emergency they wouldn't starve.
Yeah.
But now, like, yeah, like now, what used to be just for single family dwellings, now there's gonna be like what, like 50 or so apartments going up, and it's everyone, and it's interesting because I was watching this video talking about affordable housing, and what people are forgetting is, oh no, low income housing. But what they're forgetting is affordable housing, and
Yeah.
and that's where like everyday people, yeah. So yeah, I think yeah. So slowly and but surely, we're properties being like just snatched up, and they're putting honeycombs on it, and just causing the price of property to skyrocket.
Yeah, so you have that problem going on. That's a whole nother topic of discussion.
Right.
But so yeah, okay. So my thing is, I think a lot of these organizations, if they're not just completely like just raised to the ground,
Hmm.
that they should be elected positions that people vote in on and have term limits, all that sort of stuff.
Hmm.
And then you go from there. Like, obviously, like people that like work in the that organization, the everyday workers, like you can't really do anything about that. But
Mm-hmm.
those are just ordinary jobs. The I was talking about the last time about like term limits for senators, congressmen, governors,
Mm-hmm.
mayors, all that stuff. And I don't know necessarily what those limits should be, whether it's like 2 terms, maybe like kind of like what the president is. But I
Mm-hmm.
also think I'm going to go a step further too, and I actually think that it's you get to choose, like, okay, you get to serve 2 terms, like as if you want to be a senator, there you go, you get to be a senator. After that, you're done. And it's like because these offices were not meant for these money gaining ventures that what a lot of these congressmen and senators have done. They've turned into a money making venture, and that's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to be
Mm-hmm.
public service. You have a job that you're suspending to go and serve your country, serve your community, and then you go back to normal life after a time. That was what it was meant to be. And like I said, you get to be, if you want to be a senator for a couple of terms, and then you're done. You're done with public service. You don't get to go back into like Congress or run for president. You have to choose what you want to do.
Mm.
Maybe that's a little. I think that would help, because if you think about it, it's like, oh well, I ran for senator for a couple terms. Now I'm going to try to run for president or run for this, and it's like, no, you're done. And
Mm.
that way, like, these people have to get a real job. They have to actually live in society with the rest of us.
Right. So we don't end up with a bunch of Bernie Sanderses.
Exactly, where he was kicked out of a commune because he was too fucking lazy.
Yeah, that's right.
Which I
That's
find
always the funniest fact about Bernie Sanders, that he was so lazy that a fucking commune kicked him out.
And you don't have to be very productive to live in a commune. Let me tell you.
No, you don't. Yeah. In a commune, you just have to do the bare minimum. You really do. You really only have to do the bare minimum in a commune. Because the whole idea is that, because like the whole idea of a commune is that other people help you or assist you. So, and then all you have to do is kind of like help in return. But it's like you're not encouraged to go. You're not really encouraged to go above and beyond. It's just all you have to do is do the bare minimum.
Yeah. The other thing is, because like Joe Biden, he's been a senator, or he was, from like the 70s, like the early 70s. And
right.
the fact that guy, he was a paper boy at one point in like his lifetime, like 150
right, but that was
years
his
ago.
only job.
But yeah, it's like he hasn't had a private sector job in essentially his entire life.
Right, ever.
That's not what this it's not what these that's not what this is meant to be. Like these guys are not supposed to make a career out of being a senator or a congressman or the president. It's ridiculous. There's a lot, all like the founding fathers, all the people that like were that served as leaders in our country. They had real lives that like they did their time, and then like there was, okay, we finished doing our legislating or whatever, back to real life.
Yeah, back to the plow, or back to the smith, or back to the barrel making, or or back to being a lawyer.
Whatever. And it's just God, that would, I know it's never going to happen, but I think that if we put laws in place for that to happen, that would cut out a lot of the power grabbing, money hungry, secret selling ridiculousness that we get in our government today.
Well, maybe after all this collapses, we could institute some of those ideas of yours.
Yeah, What was the other thing there was one other thing I was thinking of too. Shit, what was the I had something else too, but I to me I really think that uh, uh, we need to that's right, we were talking about this yesterday actually, is that okay, if you are going to be running for a public office and you are if you are part, especially if you're part of the legislature,
Mm-hmm.
you have to divest all of your investments and whatnot, not be laws that are there to benefit you, to benefit
Mm-hmm.
your savings, your investments,
Mm-hmm.
um, and because they do have insider knowledge, which
Right.
for you and me, if we did what they did, we'd be in a
Yeah, we'd be
prison
in prison. Yeah.
for years. Um, and but no, they're allowed to, like, not only do they have the knowledge, like, oh, this law is going to be coming down, so I better, sell off my stock, or I better, like,
Or
put
buy
this
more
into some
stock.
other, yeah, either buy more stock or do this, and it's like they shouldn't even be allowed to have any investment whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're not allowed to have that advantage, they can't either.
Right. I just thought of this one. Uh, this maybe also another provision, particularly for Congress, and I mean Congress in meaning in both chambers, the House of Representative and Senate. But would you require them that they would have to pass like a certain amount of laws per session, or like they have to take a pay cut or something?
Well, here's me, like, I'm just saying, it's like you have to, like, if we're not, I don't know about necessarily passing like a certain amount of laws, because
Mm-hmm.
then it's just like, then we just start creating laws that we don't really need. To be honest, like, I would do the whole silent Cal route and just like, no, 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 just veto everything. But
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe, yeah. Or
like,
like,
here's the thing: is like, it, Congress is for like half a year, it seems
hmm
like. But then what exactly are they doing?
right.
I mean, I know, like, some people are actually
Probably
like genuinely,
campaigning and fundraising.
yeah, they're fundraising for their next campaign. That's the
Yeah,
problem.
exactly. Yeah,
Instead
yeah, yeah.
of, and that's where I'm saying, like, with people like, that work in the House of Representatives or the Senate, like, the fact
hmm
they need to stay in their damn, like, where their constituents are,
hmm
and focus on that.
Yeah. Maxine Waters.
And the occasional time, like, where the bill is being decided upon, or some sort of law or whatever that's needed for them, they'll go to Washington for that time. They'll take as long as they need to work out that bill,
hmm
and then that's it. Then they go back to their constituency, and then they work
hmm
there.
But with the advancement of technology, would you be open to? I mean, because I know because of the pandemic, a lot of people they discovered that they can do a lot of their jobs remotely. And I mean,
I
even like, because with us, we're doing this remotely, this show remotely. There's technology that we can, that we are broadcasting this out into the internet where anyone can see. Do you think that in a way to decentralize, should we even like bother with like Congress people going to Washington D.C.?
To be honest, I I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's something to it that people actually show up to, like, where they're supposed to go.
Mm-hmm.
Because we built these places for them to deliberate this stuff. Um,
Okay.
but the
Maybe,
thing
yeah,
is,
maybe not the
what I have heard too
voting,
is
but
that,
like like the committee
why
meetings
does
and things like that.
why does AOC, like, she owns an apartment out there, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like, why are they should not be living there. there's
Right. Well, especially
you
for
come to
people
like,
who
okay,
live
you're gonna be
in,
there.
especially for the people that represent DC, because that's like a 3-hour train ride.
Well, like if you like I said, if you reside in DC, you're like the mayor, or you're the well, it's what DC doesn't really they don't have any representation, which is because it's not a
Yeah, yeah,
state.
yeah. It's
It's
not a
it's
state. It's not in any state's jurisdiction.
right. But what I'm saying is like, okay, you have like a week to deliberate on something, or you have like a certain amount of time like to deliberate on something. But then
Mm-hmm.
after that, like you're done. You go back home. You go back to your district. Your
Mm-hmm.